so they'll be briefing you on the code of conduct. So we'll go over the history of the code, what is the code, obligations and responsibilities that the code asks of from the service members, why it's important, and we'll see some examples of the code in action. So history of the code. President Eisenhower introduced the code in 1955, 2 years after the end of the Korean War. And this was partly in response to North Korea's use of prisoners of war for political propaganda during the Korean War. So it served as a way to help the prisoners of war survive and during their capture. The code is based on time-honored concepts and traditions, and service members are increasingly at risk for capture. So all of you guys, if you make it and if you commission, you are at risk of being captured, especially those that go on the front lines. So that is why we have the code of conduct. And all the principles that are outlined in the code have guided and still continue to guide POWs. So we have a short video. It's pretty old, but it's pretty cool because it kind of shows how the code has evolved since the 1950s. So we'll be playing that right now.
Which was first introduced in 1955, reads like this. I am an American fighting man. I serve in the forces which guard my country and our way of life. I am prepared to give my life in their defense. I will never surrender of my own free will. If in command, I will never surrender my men while they still have the means to resist. If I am captured, I will continue to resist by all means available. I will make every effort to escape and aid others to escape. I will accept neither parole nor special favors from the enemy. If I become a prisoner of war, I will keep faith with my fellow prisoners. I will give no information or take part in any action which might be harmful to my comrades. If I am senior, I will take command. If not, I will obey the lawful orders of those appointed over me and will back them up in every way. When questioned, should I become a prisoner of war, I'm required to give name, rank, service number, and date of birth. I will evade answering further questions to the utmost of my ability. I will make no oral or written statements disloyal to my country and its allies or harmful to their cause. I will never forget that I am an American fighting man, responsible for my actions and dedicated to the principles which made my country free. I will trust in my God and the United States of America.
Assume everything the enemy does to you is a technique, some kind of a trick. He might be able to force you into doing something, but he's not going to be able to trick you into something if you assume it's a technique in the first place.
If the enemy wants a picture of you or a propaganda statement, they're going to try hard to get it. You must resist to the utmost of your ability. The code requires that. The code doesn't require you to die at the hands of a torturer or become permanently physically maimed. It requires you to stick in there with the physical pain till you just can't take it anymore. That's all any man can ask of you, and that's all your government has.
The enemy wants a willing and a compliant prisoner of war. Don't let that be you. Fight him, make him work for everything he gets. Survive from day to day, and you'll make it through.
It takes inner strength to adequately prepare yourself for combat and evasion and captivity. I think everyone has that inner strength, The problem is to be able to find it and use it when you need it. Good training will certainly help you survive, but a great deal depends on the individual and his functioning inner strength and his dedication to survive with honor.
There is nothing new in the code, nothing revolutionary, or even divinely inspired. All they did was go back after the Korean War and examine all the past POW situations and review what you will do and what you won't do, and put them into an easily understood and easy to remember set of guidelines. Acting honorably in combat and in captivity has been a true principle of the American military for over 200 years.
Confidence in your leaders and trust in one another prepares you for combat or captivity. That is a reasonable demand in a situation. The code is central to that kind of conduct. I am back here alive. I can live with myself. I feel good about myself. I feel good about my fellow prisoners who help me to maintain my self-respect. You can't do it alone.
The preamble of the code says, America will make every effort to obtain the early release of its prisoners, and promises that the laws of this land will care for their families while they're away.
It's in our history. It's what Americans stand for. It's not taught in the military, but everybody knows it. You went through school learning about the early settlers who fought for their freedom. First against nature, and then against British rule. We're moving west, growing, we're pioneering. The people who fought in our great wars and paid an enormous price for the freedom that we enjoy today. We're all part of that heritage. Those of us in the military especially have played a leading role in protecting, for all Americans, a way of life and a political system that can't be beaten anywhere on this earth.
Can someone get the lights in the back? Thank you. Okay, so thank you all for staying awake. I know it's an old video, but I think it shows really well what the code means to prisoners, and that it's actually very important. So, as you saw, I think most of you have read the Code of Conduct, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
FP cadets should know it by heart, and the younger ones, you will eventually have to learn it as well. So you can see that some wording has changed over the years, but the message still remains the same. And it still remains a source for strength for the captured. And also, knowing that your fellow wingmen have been captured and they live by the code is going to help you stay, stay positive during captivity. And that is a picture of American prisoners of war during the Vietnam War. Okay, so the Code of Conduct is basically 6 articles outlining the obligations and responsibilities of U.S. service members in harm's way. And it's a moral guide for prisoners of war, and also for those who have not been captured, just knowing the code and knowing what it stands for. And that is an American prisoner of war in 1944. So which war was that? World War II? Correct. And then those are American prisoners of war captured by the Japanese before they were rescued. So you can see their physical state is not well, but what the code is meant to do is that when you're captured and you're being tortured or beaten, or you have no food or water, and your physical state diminishes, your mental state can still be good, and it can still help you other prisoners of war stay positive. So there are a lot of responsibilities and obligations outlined in the Code of Conduct. I'm just going to read over them real fast. So first is to defend the U.S. and its way of life. Also to avoid surrender and to evade capture at any cost short of death. To try to escape if captured. To reject favors from the enemy. To help fellow prisoners stay alive. To avoid collaborating with the enemy. To avoid statements or writing that discredit the U.S. or its allies. To maintain personal responsibilities for all actions. and to trust the U.S. government to care for your loved ones and work toward your release. So knowing that the code stands for this and knowing that the POWs that you are captured with will also live by the code is going to help you stay positive and know that there are people looking for you and working on your return. So why is this code important? It's a lifesaver that gives you something to hold on to because you might not have much. It also builds a bond between the captured and gives them strength to go on. And you might not actually recite the code in captivity, word by word, but it should always be in the back of your mind. And just knowing, like that's what's so important to know what the code is. Yes, it's important to know it word by word and know all the right words to say, because I know it does change sometimes, but knowing what it means is the most important thing. And that's what I hope you all take away from this briefing. So the code in action. SEER training, which stands for Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape, they take the code to heart. It's actually one of their training principles. So what this is basically training in evading capture, survival skills, and the code of conduct. And it's the backbone of their training. Their motto is to return with honor. I don't know if you guys heard in the video, one of the prisoners of war was saying that he actually got to return and he was proud to be back. To be back in his home. He was not ashamed of the actions that he committed during his captivity. So the code helped him to that. And SEER training was established by the U.S. Air Force at the end of the Korean War, and it was extended to all the other branches, the U.S. Navy, the Marines, and the Army after or during Vietnam War. And all the higher level SEER students are those service members who are most at risk for capture. So like pilots, and all the other people on the front lines. And here's a video of their training. It's from BBC and this...
In the far northwest of America, winter comes down hard. It's the perfect place to train the military how to survive and evade capture.
So we just scratched, okay? What are the first things that you think we'd want to do as soon as you hit the ground?
Getting away fast from a downed aircraft is called escape and evasion. Not easy in over a meter of snow. This is SEER training, standing for Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape. The US Air Force has been putting its air crews through it ever since the Korean War. But since 9/11, there is a new urgency to this training.
I think due to the current conflict, the global war on terrorism that we're in right now, the battlefield's changed. And the people who are getting isolated have also changed. It's not just that pilot over Vietnam being shot down and held in Hanoi. It's a lot of other things now. We're dealing with people that aren't conventional. They didn't sign the Geneva Conventions.
Getting up into these forests to see the training was a challenge in itself. Borrowing a snowmobile was the only practical option. For most of these recruits, the forest is an alien world. With less than 1,000 calories inside them today, they're slowing down and having trouble even building a fire.
It's very challenging. Very challenging. I'm not used to the snow. I grew up kind of in the desert in Arizona. It's very foreign to me.
What's the most challenging you've ever been?
The uphill through about 4 feet of snow, and then 80 pounds on your back.
Tonight, the recruits will be taught how to trap, humanely kill, then skin these rabbits.
Make friends with them and everything.
Tomorrow they'll be eating moose. But this course has been spared the worst of the survival delicacies.
Some of the less attractive things we eat could be anywhere from insects. Probably the worst, my opinion, would be slugs. Just for sources of protein. In some environments, tropical environments, you may just have plant sources, fruit. You may not have a lot of protein. So a lot of worms, a lot of slugs, a lot of bugs we like to get these guys eating, just sort of throwing down those aversions. So they've done it once, it's not as bad as second time to try it.
Learning how to survive in a hostile terrain while being pursued by an enemy is the key skill being taught here at the US Air Force SEER School in the mountains of the Pacific Northwest. Because of the intensity of ongoing combat operations in Afghanistan and Iraq, the number of recruits going through this course is growing every year. Back on base, the man who runs all the US Air Force survival training from Alaska to Florida has learned it the hard way, spending more than 20 years on special operations.
The most important thing is confidence. I can put you in a variety of very stressful environments, in that you have the faith, confidence, you don't lose faith in your fellow military member, you don't lose faith in your God, you don't lose faith in your country, that we will do everything we can to get you out, and that you know that. We train to that level of skill, and that's critical to anybody coming back from any type of survival or isolated situation.
The Air Force would not show us their resistance training, it's classified secret, but they did show us the rite of passage many aircrew must now endure. Here in this indoor pool is where they teach the stress inoculation part of SEER training. It's how they train aircrew to escape from an aircraft that's ditched in the sea. For the students behind me, they're about to undergo one of the most terrifying experiences of their lives. Above a pitch-black indoor pool with simulated lightning, 20 recruits are hoisted up in a mock-up of a helicopter fuselage. There's a storm building, the chopper's losing power. They're told to prepare to ditch in the sea. They've got seconds to escape from the submerged cabin, then swim to the life rafts. The instructors pummel them with cold, high-pressure water. Someone's gone overboard and has to be rescued before they can radio their position. But the exercise is stopped early. One recruit has had a panic attack, believing she was drowning, and she's had to be pulled out of the water. Her future in the Air Force is now in doubt.
The whole jumping into the water in the dark in the storm just reminded me a lot of when I had experiences with drowning, and it just completely and totally could not even think about anything else than getting out of the water.
Outside, it's -8 degrees, and the next batch of recruits are learning how to be rescued from the air. Parts of survival school can look almost fun. But America has no shortage of enemies, and with nearly 250,000 US troops deployed on operations around the world, the instructors at SEER School are in for a busy time. Frank Gardner, BBC News, at Fairchild Air Force Base in Washington State.
Okay, so the video didn't really talk much about the code and how important it is to those trainees, but I've heard stories from my stepdad who actually went through that, and he told me that it was horrible, and it was wintertime, and they had to find their food, like skin rabbits, and he likes animals, so it was hard for him to do that, but that's besides the point. But he told me that during the whole time that he was captured, he kept reciting the code in his head, and he never thought that he would do that because to him it was just something that he had to learn at first, but actually going through this training made it seem that, like this is not a joke, this is for real, and this is what helped him go on. So we have another example, the code in action, and this is Army Chief Warrant Officer Michael Durant. He was captured in Somalia in 1993. Have you guys seen the movie Black Hawk Down? He was the helicopter pilot that got shot down, and he was the only one to survive from that cruise. So 18 people died during the operation, and I'm going to read a little bit about him, his experience. So Michael Durant said he couldn't have recited the 6 articles, but clearly understood the spirit of the code and led to govern his actions when he was taken captive in October 1993 in Mogadishu, Somalia. Durant suffered a broken back, a compound fracture of his right leg, and a broken cheekbone when his helicopter was shot down during a firefight that ultimately killed 18 U.S. soldiers. While in captivity, Durant's guards shot him in the arm. The Somalis also videotaped and broadcast images of his battered face. Yet Durant said the code of conduct and the high standard of behavior demands helped him through his difficult days. And this is a quote by him. It's important to know what's in it and what you should do and what you should not do, and to live by it and up to it. So he was actually rescued 10 days after he was captured, and his video was played all over the US and it gained a lot of attention, but it also brought attention to prisoners of war because we have forgotten about them since the Vietnam War. Like, no one really got captured, and this was one of the first times in the recent years that a U.S. service member was captured. And I just have a little video of Black Hawk Down, the trailer. I think this is pretty cool because it kind of shows what happened there. Are you guys familiar with what happened in Somalia in 1993? Have you guys seen the movie? Who has seen the movie? Raise your hands. The majority. Okay, we'll still watch the video because it's pretty cool. I just like it. Can you get the lights?
You shouldn't have come here. This is our war, not yours.
300,000 dead and counting. That's not a war, Mr. Agent. It's genocide.
These people, they have no food. We can either help, or we can sit back and watch a country destroy itself on CNN.
Rangers, Deltas, today's government.
Name?
Blackburn.
Date of birth?
2/27/75.
I was trained to fight. You trained to fight, son? I was trained to make a difference.
So guess what? You're going out today.
Huh?
That's what you wanted, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
Just remember when everybody else is shooting in the same direction. You ever shot at anybody before?
No, sir.
Me neither.
Once that first bullet goes past your head, politics go right out the window.
That baby's waiting. You there? Pick up if you're there. Come on, baby.
My men are surrounded by thousands of Somali militia. I need help now.
Where's the rescue squad?
We're in.
I can't do it.
It's what you do right now that makes a difference.
People ask me, why do you do it, man? They want to understand it's about the men next to you.
Don't let that man crawl! Somebody help that man!
That's all it is.
No one gets left behind, you know that.
Right, so it's a great movie, so I'm going to you guys watch it. It is a little bit hard to watch because there's a lot of death and gore, but it's a very good film. And actually, Michael Durant continued to serve in the Army and he continued to fly after he was captured. He flew 3,700 hours total by the end of his career, and 1,400 of them were using night vision goggles. And he was portrayed in that movie by one of the actors. So in summary, I've been over the history of the code, what is the code of conduct, its obligations and responsibilities, why it's important, and the code in action. And this concludes my briefing. Are there any questions, comments?